Okay, guys, so let's start our class. Am I audible to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so today we are going to study the security at the transport layer, and the security at the transport layer are being provided by the two protocols called as SSL and TLS. So with these two, we can provide the security at the transport layer. So these are the outlines for today's lecture, where we will see the security services which are being provided by the transport layer at the internet model of the internet model. Thereafter, we'll see the general architecture of SSL and TLS, and then we'll compare these two together. So these are the outlines which are going to be discussed in today's lecture. Now, this is where your SSL and TLS lies in the internet model. We can see it is lying beneath the application layer, but on the top of TCP layer. So basically, your transport layer provides the security for end-to-end services for variety of applications. Okay, and your SSL is particularly designed to provide the security and compression services to data originated from the application layer. So in this diagram, whatever data or these things are being done at the application layer, in order to uh, provide the security at the network layer, we use your SSL and TLS. For example, uh, there are many applications which uses your HTTP protocol, right? But in order to transfer all the data which are being transferred with the help of your HTTP, we can make the use of this SSL or TLS. Okay. So the moment you make the use of SSL or TLS, in that case, your HTTP will become HTTPS, right? So basically here you can say that HTTP messages are going to be encapsulated in your SSL or TLS packets, and through which only the things like the moment we perform any credit card operations or transactions, and those transactions are being done safely, or those details are being transferred safely with the help of these SSL and TLS only. Okay, so these are the topics which we are going to discuss in SSL. So these are the services. The moment we think about SSL or TLS, then SSL, then these are the services which are being provided by it. So fragmentation, compression, message integrity, confidentiality, and framing. So these are the basic services provided by SSL, and we'll discuss some of them in detail. So the things which SSL provides us are authentication, here, authentication, message integrity, and confidentiality, and compression is also being provided by your SSL. So these are the three major things or three major services which are being provided by your SSL at the network layer. Okay, so the moment we talk about your message authentication or the confidentiality, that means we have to have the algorithms for them, right? In order to provide the confidentiality, we can use your encryption algorithms, and in order to provide the message authentication, we can use your digital signatures and all. And we do know, in order to provide them, we have to have those algorithms, and those algorithms requires some set of keys as well, right? So how exactly we are going to exchange those keys? So these are the available algorithms in SSL suite through which we can exchange the keys in between the intended parties. Okay, so these are the key exchange methods in your SSL architecture. So first type is null, where no keys are being exchanged, and then RSA, then anonymous Diffie-Hellman, ephemeral, Diffie-Hellman, fixed Diffie-Hellman, and Forteza. So these are the algorithms which can be used to exchange the keys. Okay, so these are the variety of your Diffie-Hellman only. Okay, so this is your typical Diffie-Hellman where both the parties are totally unaware about each other, and in this one we use the notion of your digital signature where one party is authenticated to the another one, and in this one we make the use of some fixed parameters. Only half key is being transferred to the other party. Okay, so these are the key exchange protocols which are used in SSL architecture. Okay, now in this case, null case, there is no key exchange in this method, so no pre-master master secret is established between the client and the server. So as I told you that we need to have some sort of keys in between the two parties, and the moment we have those keys, only then we can go for the further process, right? So there might be one possibility where none of the keys are being used, means in cases where we are not interested in the authentication or in confidentiality. Okay, and in second case where the RSA is being used to pass the pre-master secret. So over here this particular thing will be encrypted with the public key of the server, right? And now the server will be able to decrypt this one with his private key. So this is the RSA key exchange process. Now anonymous Diffie-Hellman. So many times we have discussed this particular algorithm. So again, some set of parameters are being passed by the client, and similarly some of the parameters are being passed by the server, and at the end one pre-master key is calculated. Okay, or one common value is calculated, and that common value will be treated as a pre-master value. Okay, and in this one the values which are being passed in between the two parties have been signed by both the parties. So the moment the server tries to send these values, it signed all these values by his private key, and a similar process has been adopted by the client itself. So that way both of them will be able to authenticate each other, and this will prevent your meet in the middle attack. Okay, and in fixed one only half key is being used. Okay, and a concept of certification authority is also come to picture. So some of the parameters has been kept constant, and rest of the parameters are considered as a half key, and those half keys are being passed in the form of a certificate, or you can say are being managed in the form of certificate, and over here our certification authority will play a role. And another method is a Forteza algorithm. So this is out of scope, but this is one of the algorithm which you can use to transfer the keys. So till now we have talked about the algorithms which can be used in order to exchange the keys. Okay, now these are the set of algorithms which can be used to provide confidentiality in your SSL architecture. So in the first place, again, there is one option where we do not use any of the algorithm, and hence it will not provide any confidentiality. And then we have got stream cipher, block ciphers, and some variety of block ciphers. So this is RC4, and this indicates that what is the size of the key which we are going to use for this algorithm. Okay, so here 40-bit key will be used, here 128-bit key will be used, and here your 40-bit key will be used. Okay, and your stream cipher is also available as a block cipher in RC2, and here your cipher block chaining mode is used, and in this case again your DES is used with some varieties. For example, over here again your cipher block chaining with 40-bit is used. This is your standard DES, and this is your triple DES, Okay, and again this particular mode of operation is being used with all these DS varieties. And over here your idea algorithm is used, and at the end your Forteza algorithm is used. So these are the available algorithms in SSL architecture through which you can achieve the confidentiality. Okay, so again, the moment a null is there, that means there is a lack of confidentiality, and these are have been discussed. Yes. Now the third thing which has been provided by USS architecture is uh, authentication, right? And in order to have the authentication, we do generate some key values, some hash values, right? And the moment hashes are matches at the other end, then we can say that the message has not been changed. And alternatively, these things are also being used for your digital signatures. So these are the hash algorithms which can be used in your SSL architecture. Again, they cannot be, means there may be a possibility where none of the hash algorithms are being used, or we can use MD5 and SHA-1 in SSL architecture. So these are the two available things. Okay. So null means the message is not authenticated. Okay. In case of MD5, the two parties may choose MD5 as the hash algorithm, and in this case, this is going to be your hash size. Okay. In SHA-1, this is the size of your hash. Now the cipher suit, the combination of your key exchange, hash, and encryption algorithms defines a cipher suit for each SSL session. So the moment we create a session in SSL, then we do agree on some of the values, and these values are going to be a key exchange, hash, and encryption algorithm. So this is how we represent your cipher suit in SSL. Okay, so this is your protocol, and which is thereafter we include your key exchange algorithm. So over here we have used your ephemeral Diffie-Hellman algorithm with RSA. Okay. Thereafter your encryption algorithm will be specified, and at the end your authentication algorithm or your hash algorithm will be specified. Okay. So this is a typical way of representing all the things, okay, of SSL, which are going to be used for that particular session. So since we have got a variety of key exchange algorithms and a variety of encryption and hash algorithms, so this particular cipher suit can also be seen in many varieties. So these are the possible combinations which can be used in SSL architecture to create any session. Okay. For example, in this particular, this is the key exchange algorithm, this is the encryption algorithm, and this is the hash algorithm which is being used. Okay. So it depends on what values both the parties have agreed upon to establish a session. Okay. And the compression is optional in this particular version of the SSL. So no specific compression algorithm is defined for SSL 3. Therefore, the default compression method is going to be null in this particular version of SSL. Okay. Now, as we have discussed already, that we need to have some cryptographic secrets in order to provide the authentication and confidentiality, right? So how exactly we are going to generate those cryptographic secrets? So first we need to calculate the master secret, and in order to calculate this particular master secret, first we calculate pre-master secret. Okay, or in another way you can say that first we need to generate the pre-master secret, and then we'll generate the master secret. So this is the process of generating your pre-master secret. Okay, your PM means the pre-master secret which will be there after the initial handshake in between the client and server. So so let's say this is your pre-master secret, and these are the assumed constants A, BB, and CCC. Okay, and these are the random number of your client and the server. Okay, so at the first step, some constant along with the pre-master key and the assumed random number of client and server are being passed as an input to your hash algorithm, and in this case this is your SHA-1. Okay, and it will generate or create a hash value which is again then concatenated with your pre-master key. Then a hash value is generated by applying your MD5 algorithm, and the same process is applied 2 more times. Okay, and at the end, a 48-byte master key, master secret is generated at the end. Okay, so this is the process of calculation of master secret from your pre-master secret. Okay, and this is the process of generating your key materials or calculation of key materials from the master key. This was the process to generate the master secret, and this is the process to generate the key material. Key material are your authentication keys, your encryption keys. Okay, so these, all those keys are being calculated or are being generated from here only. Okay, so we use master key to generate these key materials, and again the process looks pretty much similar as the previous one. So same things are being applying over here as well, but the only difference is here we are passing the master key instead of your pre-master secret. Okay, the rest of the process is same, and there is one more difference. This time we apply this process again and again until unless the desired length of key material is achieved. Okay, since we have seen that the encryption algorithms are available in number of varieties, means where the key size are varying. We have seen the encryption algorithms where 40 bits were being used. Okay, 128 bits were being used, 168 bits were being used. So in order to match those key size, this particular step can be repeated again and again until unless that particular key size is achieved. Okay, so this is how the key materials are being calculated from your master secret. So this is how the things are being extracted from your master secret. Okay, so the desired length is achieved, then these set of keys are being extracted from your key materials. Okay, so for authentication we need to have 2 keys, one for the client and one for the server. Okay, for encryption and decryption, again we have to have 1 key for client and 1 key for server. And in order to provide your cipher block chaining or block ciphers, we need to have some initialization vectors as well, if you recall, right? One for encryption and other for the decryption. So these are the 6 cryptographic secrets which has to be there in your SSL architecture in order to provide the desired services. Okay, which are your basically authentication and confidentiality. So our session can be formed by various connections, or in a session one party has the role of a client and the other party performs the role of a server. So the moment we talk about session, that means you are talking about a communication between 2 parties where one party will act as a client and the other party will act as a server. And the moment we talk about a connection in a session, in that case both the party will be having the equal responsibility and they will act as a peer. So inside a session we can have many connections. Okay, so first we need to establish a session in between the intended parties. Okay, and after establishing session, then we can establish number of connections. So in a session we can have number of connections, and those connections can be terminated and then can be resumed again. Okay, and we can also suspend or end a session and then can start a new session. But in that case, what can be done, that the moment we want to resume the new session, that exchange of pre-master secret is not necessary. Since all that process has been done already earlier, so that process can be skipped. Only the things which are required to make new connection will be done. Okay, so this is the point regarding your session and connections. Okay, so these are the session state parameters. The moment we talk about a session, then these are the things which are going to be passed in between the two parties. Okay, a session ID and the peer certificate, compression method, cipher suit, master secret, and whether we can resume that session or not. So these are the things which are going to be passed, or you can say these are the state parameters which are established during your session establishment. Okay, and then these are the connection states. So the moment we talk about the connection, then these are the things which are going to be happen, or these are the parameters which are going to be passed in between the two parties. Okay, so the random numbers of the client and the server will be passed. Okay, then your message authentication code will be passed by both the parties. Then your encryption keys will be passed by both the parties. Okay, and again your initialization vector values will be passed by the two parties, and a sequence number will be also be kept for each and every connection. Okay, so the client and server have got 6 different cryptography secrets. So there are going to be 3 read secrets and 3 write secrets. Okay, and the read secrets for the clients are same as the write secret for the server. For example, we have got a client and a server, so the write secret of the client will become the read secret of the server, and similarly the write secret of the server will become the read secret of the client. Okay, this is what we mean to say in this particular note. And these are nothing but your read and write secret are nothing but your keys only, authentication keys and your encryption keys. So so far we have discussed the idea of your SSL architecture, and now let us see how exactly the things are being accomplished in SSL. So in SSL, the things are being accomplished with the help of these 4 protocols, named as your handshake protocol, chain cipher, spec protocol, alert protocol, and record protocol. So this is the view of all the 4 protocols where they lie in your SSL architecture. So we can see that all the payload from the application layer, along with the output of all these 3 protocols, which are handshake protocol, chain cipher, spec protocol, and alert protocol. So the messages from these 3 protocols, along with the data from the application layer, is being sent to the record protocol, and it provides the payload to your transport layer. Okay, which will make the use of your TCP and UDP for the further things. Okay, so in SSL we use these 4 protocols. Okay, now let us discuss each protocol in detail. So as the name itself suggests, the handshake protocol uses some sequence of messages to negotiate the cipher suit. Okay, and that particular cipher suit will mention that how exactly we are going to have the authentication. Okay, and other things. For example, the keys which are going to be used by the client and server, how exactly we are going to exchange those keys. So in short, first we establish the security capabilities. Okay, then the keys are being exchanged, and then the finalization of handshake protocol is done in the last phase. So in the first phase, some security capabilities are being established. In the second phase, server sends its authentication parameters along with the key exchange parameters. Okay, in third phase, then client sends the authentication credential along with the key exchange parameters. Okay, and at the end, finalization of this handshake protocol is being done. Okay, so these are the 4 phases which are there in your handshake protocol. So this is how your phase 1 looks like. Okay, where we establish security capabilities. Okay, for example, what is the version of your SSL? What is the random number of your client? What is the session ID? What is the cipher suit? Okay, and the compression methods. Cipher suit means how exactly we are going to establish authentication. Okay, how we are going to achieve the encryptions and all. So all those things will be specified with the help of this cipher suit, and this we have discussed in the earlier slides. Okay, so these things will be sent to the server, and server will again send the same to the client. Okay, so after phase 1, the client and server will know these things, means the version of the SSL which are being used, then the algorithms used for key exchange, message authentication and encryption, and the compression method which is going to be used for this thing. Okay, this will also be stated in your phase 1, and of course the 2 random numbers for your key generation. Okay, and these 2 random numbers will also be exchanged during your phase 1 only. Okay, and this is your phase 2 of handshake protocols, where this set of certificates are being exchanged in between your client and server. So in phase 2 especially, your server sends a chain of certificates to the clients, okay, in order to prove its authentication, and then the server public key is also being sent to the client. Okay, and then it also sends the list of acceptable certificates along with the acceptable authorities. These details are also being sent to the clients. Okay, and this is your done message. The moment it passes all this information to the client, then this particular message is sent to terminate this particular phase. Okay. So after phase 2, this server is authenticated to the client, and the client knows the public key of the server if required. Okay, here. So we have seen some of the varieties of cipher suit. In some cases, we are not in the need of authentication or the confidentiality, right? So in those cases, there will not be any need of exchanging the pre-master secret, or you can say the keys. So each 4 cases in phase 2 has been discussed in this diagram in detail over here. Okay, where server public key is being exchanged by the server to the client. Okay, so there can be one variety where no server keys are being exchanged, only the RSA algorithm is being used. Okay, so in this method, the public key is first made available, okay, and sent. Fine. So the moment anybody encrypts the data with the public key of the server, in that case only the server will be able to decrypt the data with the help of its private key. So this is one of the method where no explicit server key exchange is done. And this is the another variety or another case where we make use of your anonymous Diffie-Hellman algorithms. So since you are already aware that in this case we need to exchange some values, some pre-secret values, right? So some of the values are being sent to the client, and then client respond back with some of the values. Okay, so in this case we need to exchange some values. And in case of ephemeral Diffie-Hellman, again we need to send some values, and this time the values are being signed. Okay, and in this case only your Diffie-Hellman certificate is being sent in your fixed Diffie-Hellman key. Okay, since in this case the involvement of third party is there. Okay, and only half key is inserted in your certificate, so only certificate is being sent to the other party. Okay, those half values are being sent with the help of the certificates only. So only the certificates, sending the certificates will do the job. So this is how the keys are being exchanged by the server to the client. So in phase 3 now, the server has proved its authentication and has sent all the certificates to the client. Now it is client's turn to send the certificates and the necessary key values. Okay. So after phase 3, the client will be able to authenticate itself to the server, and both client and server will know the pre-master secret. Okay. So these are again the varieties through which a client can send its key values to the server. Okay. If client has got some certificates, then the certificates will be sent to server. And if the certificates are not available to the client, then only some empty messages will be sent to the server. Then it will be up to server whether he is going to, or whether the server is going to accept that communication or not. So these are the varieties through which the values can be exchanged. A value can be sent by the client to the server. So this is the first variety where first the server has initiated, okay, by sending the public key, by making its public key available. So the client will make the use of that public key in order to send the pre-master secret. Okay. And in the other variety where initially the server has sent some set of values, this time the client will send back the other set of values. Okay. And again, your ephemeral Diffie element can also be used in order to prove the authenticity of the client. Okay. So in this case, some certificate along with some values, some signed values will be sent to the server. And again, in your fixed Diffie element, the certificate will be sent to this time the certificate will be sent by the client to the server. So this certificate will include the half values. Okay. And this communication do take place with the help of your certification authorities and all. So these are the 4 cases in phase 3 from the client perspective. And this is the final phase of your handshake protocol. Okay. So in this final phase, your chain cipher spec values are being exchanged in between the client and server. And particularly this particular exchange of messages are the part of your other protocol, which is termed as chain cipher spec protocol. So this particular exchange is actually the part of your other protocol. Okay. So first server sends some values, and then first your client sends some values, then your server respond back with the same values. Okay. So one will specify all the values, and the other will specify the final MAC value, which will be added at the last when we send the message. When we send the message in the form of the packets. So after phase 4, the client and server are ready to exchange the data. So this much of communication has to take place before commencing the actual communication. So as I told you that this particular portion is the part of your chain cipher spec protocol. So now let us discuss that particular thing in detail. So basically, the moment we talk about your chain cipher spec protocol, in case of SSL, it has mandated that the parties cannot use these parameters or secrets until they have sent or received a special message. And that special message is nothing but your chain cipher spec messages, which we have seen in the last slide. Okay. And in this particular protocol, we make the use of 2 states. The one state is called as a pending state, and the other state is called as a active state. Okay. So your pending state keeps the track of your parameters and the secret, where your active state holds the parameters and secret which are being used by the record protocol. Okay. So in the coming slides, you will see that record protocol as well. So this particular state will tell us that the security parameters which are going to be used by that protocol. Okay. So what is being happening in this particular diagram? So in this diagram, first this particular thing will be passed from the client to the server. Okay. So as of now, there's nothing has been done. All the things are there in the pending state only. Okay. And when the client finish the message or client finish message, this can be signed and encrypted by the client and verified and decrypted by the server. So in earlier slides, I have told you the moment we talk about write, that means we are signing, and the moment we write about or we say discuss about read, that means we are trying to decrypt or verifying. Okay, so write means either signing or encrypting. Read means either verifying or decrypting. Okay, so in this case, as we can see that write values or write parameters are being transferred into the active state. So that means this time these values have been used. Okay, for this particular cipher-spec value, cipher-suite are being used for the communication. So the moment they come into write mode, then automatically the server will active its read mode. Okay, so this will be your assigning or the encrypting algorithms, and this will be your verifying and decrypting algorithm at the other end. And similarly, when the server do the same thing or server does the same thing, for example, now this server will be having some parameters in writing state or in active state, and the moment these parameters come in the active state, these parameters will automatically convert or will come in the read state at the other end. Okay, so this time the server is sending something or server is encrypting or signing, and the client is verifying or decrypting these security parameters. So this is a way through which the things are moved in your chain cipher space from pending state to active state. Okay. Now your third protocol, which is your alert protocol. This protocol is generally used to report the errors and the abnormal condition. Okay, and it has got only one message type, and this particular messages will describe the problem and its state. So these are the description of the alerts. For example, no certificate, where the client has got no certificate to send, or the bad certificate means the certificate is not there in the proper format, or the certificate is bad, or it is in the proper format, or the certificate has been revoked, or it has been expired or unknown. So these are the variety of errors which can be there. Okay, and over here the meaning of each type of error has been indicated along with their corresponding values. Okay, so simply the moment any type of error is encountered, then the description or those particular error messages will be thrown by the SSL. Okay, and this is your last protocol of your SSL. So in this particular protocol, the payload from the upper layer protocol will come. Okay, means the payload from your handshake protocol, chain cipher spec protocol, and the alert protocol will come along with the data. So all those things will be converted in the form of a fragment. So definitely they are going to be the number of fragments, and then those fragments are being compressed. Okay, then with the help of those compressed fragments and some pre-assumed values, a hash will be generated, and then that hash will be added or concatenated with the compressed value. Okay, so this particular step will provide the authentication, and then some sort of encryption will be performed. Okay, and after this encryption, we will be able to have the confidentiality. So this particular encrypted fragment will be considered as a SSL payload, which is going to be transferred to the next layer. Okay, and this will also be concatenated with your record protocol header. Okay, and this particular header will consider that what is the protocol, what is the version of the protocol, okay, and what is the length of the messages. Fine, and this is the abstract view of your SSL, the final SSL payload along with your record protocol header. Okay, so as you can see, this is a complex fragment, and these are the detailing. Okay, we can say the header details, and these are also being passed along with your MAC value, which can be 0, 16, or 20 bytes. So this is the packet which is going to be transferred, okay, in SSL. And how exactly we are calculating this MAC? This has been explained over here. So again, this has been discussed in detail when we were discussing your key generation or in the previous topics. Okay, so again, some MAC write secret will be there, and some assumed paddings will be there. Okay, so some padding or initial values will be added. At this time, the sequence number, complex type, complex length, so all the details of that particular cipher suit will be included. Okay, and with the help of this, a hash value will be generated, which will be very specific to that cipher spec suit. Okay, so your MAC values along with some padding and these details are used as an input to this MD5 or SHA-1 algorithm. Okay, and a particular hash value is generated, and this is again passed to one more round, and this time again your MAC write secret or MAC value along with another padding is used. Okay, so there are variety. If you are using this one, then this padding value is repeated this one time, and if you are using this one, then this is repeated this many number of times. So 2 rounds of hashing have been done, and at the end your MAC is generated, which can be used for the authentication. Then your SSL message formats. So these are the formats, and the message format will be different. It depends upon which protocol we are using. Okay. So in case of your chain cipher SWIFT protocol, this is pretty much simple. Only that we are using, or the everything has been going smoothly. So the moment we try to create a message for this particular protocol, then this is how it can be denoted. So 20 is the protocol ID of your chain cipher spec protocol. Okay. Similarly, the format for alert messages and the description and the handshake protocols. So all the variety of protocols can be presented by the variety of header values and the contents. Okay. Since we already discussed all these things in detail, so there's nothing that the header is being now added to each one of them. Okay. Yes. So your 20 was for your chain cipher SWIFT protocol, your 21 for your alert messages. Okay. Then there are variety of handshake protocols. So for each variety, a different message format has been discussed. Okay. For example, these many type of messages can be there in your handshake messages. So, and in each one of them has been discussed earlier when we were discussing the phases of your handshake protocol. Okay. For example, there's going to be the exchange of certificates, exchange of some key values. Okay. Then certificate verification will be there, certificate exchange will be there. Okay. So all these things will be having their own different type, like this. So now this is again your handshake protocol. Okay. Now this is how the hash is being calculated to verify the certificates in your SSL architecture. So let's say we have got some handshake messages, and we also got master secret. So one input padding will be used, and this will be then passed to your one of the algorithm, let's say MD5 or SHA-1. Okay, and that process is again executed in order to calculate the final hash value. So this is the hash calculation to certify the verify messages. These are things for your verify messages. And now this is the process of hash calculation for your finished message. So this is the last message which has to be there in order to ensure the smoothness of the overall process. Okay. So again the same things are being included. Okay, in order to compute the hash value. Okay, and again one more round is being executed to evaluate the final hash value. So over here, these values will be placed. Okay, and this is the format for your record protocol. We can see over here the protocol ID is 23. So as of now, we have discussed the working of your SSL. Okay, and now nowadays we use TLS, and most of the time we abbreviate this TLS as SSL only. Okay, the moment we type anything on your HTTP, okay, we can see a log has been there, or the moment we use HTTPS, then most of the time we think that we are using SSL, but in most of the cases we use TLS and we term it as a SSL. Okay, so your TLS is pretty much similar to your SSL protocol only, but there are some differences. So we'll see the differences only, since the technical details of SSL has been discussed in detail. So we are not discussing all the details once again, rather what are the differences, okay, or what are the changes which has been incorporated in TLS will be explained in the coming slide. Okay. For example, the first difference is the version number. The current version of your SSL is your 3.0, and the current version of your TLS is 1.0. So these two versions are compatible to each other. Okay. Then another minor difference between SSL and TLS is the lack of support for the Forteza method. In SSL, we can find the Forteza method, which can be used for the encryption and all, while it is not available in TLS for key exchange and encryption or decryption. Okay. So since this particular method is not available in TLS, then these are the some of the possible varieties of your cipher scheme. Okay, so this time we cannot see that the Forteza method is there, or your key exchange or the encryption decryption, right? Now the generation of cryptographic secret. This is one of the major difference between your SSL and TLS. Okay, so how exactly we can generate this cryptographic secret? Cryptographic secret means the things which will be used in order to ensure the authentication and confidentiality. Okay, so how exactly we can create those keys? So in your TLS, one seed values along with the secret is being passed to your HMAC, which will provide some intermediate hash. Okay, and that intermediate hash is again then concatenated with your seed values to generate another hash value with the HMAC. Okay, so over here your seed is nothing but the concatenation of the assumed client and server random values. Okay, so this time the random values of client and server are concatenated to each other and being served as an input along with the secret to HMAC, which will generate a hash value, a intermediate hash value. Okay, and the same thing is being done again and again. Okay, in the second case, this seed value is going to be your output of your first round HMAC. Okay, so this process will be continued until unless we meet the desired length. Okay, desired length, for example, it depends upon which variety of authentication and encryption we are using. So whatever is the key size, we will establish that key size over here. Okay, and this is your pseudo random function. your TLS make use this particular function or make use of this particular function in order to create a new secret. So in this particular case, as you can see, a help of label is also used along with your seed values. Okay, and then this particular concatenation is divided into two equal halves. Okay, one of the half is being passed to MD5 algorithm and the other half is passed to the SHA-1 as an input along with your half secrets. Okay, so these are nothing but your data expansion function. Okay, we will see the detailing of this particular function. So the output are then being XORed in order to create the new secret. So this is your pseudo random function of TLS. So this is how the master secret is generated. Okay, your pre-master secret along with the label master secret and your seed values, which is nothing but the concatenation of your client random number and server random number is being passed to this function, this one, and then it generates a master secret. Okay, and this is the method or the function which is being used by the server, where the concatenation of server random number with client random number is being done. Earlier, we were first using the client random number, then the server random number, and this time first the random number from the server is concatenated to the client random number. Okay, so this step is for the server. Yes. Yeah, this was the data expansion function. This one. Okay, so this is how the things are being done. Okay, the only difference is this time the MD5 will be used, and this time, and the other time SHA-1 will be used to create the expanded secret. Okay. So master secret generation for client and server has been discussed. Now the alert protocol. So TLS supports all of the alert which has been defined earlier in SSL except for no certificate. So it doesn't allow the absence of certificate. And apart from that, TLS also adds some new ones to the list. So some more alerts has been used. Okay, for example, this one, record overflow, okay, or decompression failure. So some more alert messages has been incorporated in your TLS. Now this is how, in order to create the hash value for certificate verification is being calculated in TLS. So earlier it has to be a two-step process. Now the process has been simplified. Okay, so handshake message simply pass to these hashing functions to generate a hash value. And apart from that, for the finished message, the moment we talk about the finished message hash values in TLS, then the messages are again being passed through the MD5 and SHA-1 algorithms in order to create two intermediate hash values, okay, which will serve as a seed. And then all these things, which are your master secret, finished label, and this seed are goes to your pseudo random function in order to create the final hash value. Okay, and this is how your final HMAC is being calculated in TLS. Okay, earlier it used to be a very simple thing like this. Yeah. Okay, it used to be a very simple thing, but now this is if you can recall the moment you were discussing your hashed MAC while discussing your authentication, it was the same. Okay, so this time MAC secret is used along with your input padding. Okay, and then an intermediate hash value is generated, which is again then concatenated to this value, and this value has been obtained by using your output padding along with your MAC secret. Okay, so after performing this thing, the value is being concatenated with the hash, and again your MD5 or SHA-1 is used to create the final HMAC value. Okay, so these are the process through which the final HMAC is being generated for the TLS. So these are the things, so the detailings of your SSL architecture and TLS architecture. So I hope all of you would have got the concept. And in case if you have any question, then you can ask me. Any questions, students? All of you are requested to just go through the discussed things so that you can get the concept. Any questions? I cannot hear any one of you.
No, sir.
No, sir, no.
Okay. So then we'll stop this class over here only, and let's meet tomorrow for the next topic. Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir.